Order, order. We start with questions. The Chancellor of the Exchequer, David Smith.
Question number 1, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
With permission, Mr. Speaker, I should like to answer this question together with question number 10 and question number 20. Ministers from government departments have met with organisations including the National Farmers Union, the Tenant Farmers Association, the Country Land and Business Association, the Central Association of Agricultural Valuers, the Ulster Farmers Union and the NFU in Scotland and Wales. I've also met with farmers in the northeast of England only last month, and after listening and considering to the independent Sentax report, the government believes, Mr. Speaker, that the approach we have set out is an appropriate one.
David Smith.
I thank my honourable friend for that answer. I'm proud to support a government that believes in progressive taxation, as I'm sure he does. Those with the broadest shoulders should bear the greatest burden. The Sentax minimum share rule proposal would mean that farm estates with at least 60% used for farming would receive relief up to £5 million per person. This would reduce the risk of family farms being broken up, place a greater burden on very large estates and those gaming the system, and double the forecast tax take. So, would he direct Treasury officials to take another look at the Sentax proposals on APR prior to the budget?
May I thank my honourable friend for his question and say, Mr. Speaker, that he is a strong advocate in this place for his constituency and for farming communities. The member for North and Northumberland made the point just last week to me about how crucial both to economic but also social and cultural life our farmers and our farming community is. He has been working hard along with colleagues from rural constituencies across these benches to raise the points that matter to farmers, and this government is doing all that we can to support our farming industry. On the specific point around the Sentax proposals on minimum share, Mr. Speaker, I do not need to direct officials to look at them because I have read those proposals, and it is worth noting that the number of losers from the policy that is proposed would be more than double the number of people affected by the changes that this government is putting forward, with over 1,000 estates affected by the proposals put forward by Sentax.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A Liberal Democrat Freedom of Information request revealed that the Treasury recently had plans to review the family farm tax. Farmers across the country are fed up with bickering and infighting from a government that just doesn't understand them. But there's still time to act and end months of confusion and misery. So will the Chancellor and her ministers meet with farmers from Glastonbury and Somerton and me to provide some clarity and reveal the full extent of the government's discussions on revoking this damaging family farm tax?
Just a few weeks ago, I met with farmers to discuss this and other important issues, and the government does believe that even though this tax is a difficult change, and I don't shy away from that fact, we believe that it's the right change to make because it is a way of raising revenue, Mr. Speaker, in a fair way that helps contribute to restoring the public finances.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd just kindly ask the Chancellor to please respond to my joint letter sent last week on Cornwall's future funding to meet with all Cornish MPs without delay. Mr. Speaker, alternative proposals to this damaging family farm tax, like a clawback scheme as proposed by the NFU, or increasing the threshold to £5 million, would raise more in revenue than the government's current plans. In contrast to her speech this morning, the Chancellor now has the opportunity to do both the right thing and the popular thing. The mental health toll on farmers is becoming completely unsustainable. So please, Chancellor, rethink this damaging policy.
I thank the honourable member for his question, and I would be happy to meet with him and members from across Cornwall to discuss the issues that he raised in the letter to the Chancellor.
May Ellis.
Mr. Speaker, as the Minister's just highlighted, the main argument against the Sentax proposals for APR now seems to be a fear that more people will be subject to inheritance tax under its proposals, even though most of those extra people are essentially private homeowners with agricultural fields. Does he not agree with me that Labour values call for supporting hard-working farmers who are the backbone of this country over millionaire homeowners who have wider money in their wider estate to pay the inheritance tax?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank my honourable friend for her question and for her time last week. It was good to meet with her to talk about important issues affecting farmers and rural communities. On balance, the government believes that the policy position that was set out at the budget last year is the right position, Mr. Speaker, and we will be continuing with it.
Right, we're going to Shadow Minister James Wilde. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. This morning, the Chancellor failed to take responsibility for her poor choices of the budget that whacked up taxes, borrowing and spending, and she made clear she will once again break her promises on tax. And the farmers I've met have been in tears about the family farm tax, not because they're worried about losing their job, but because the Chancellor is putting at risk generations of farming. So can the Minister tell the House whether the Chancellor has actually met any farmers, the NFU or any of the other organisations to understand the impact of her policy and why she should scrap the family farm tax?
The government has looked and assessed at the impact of this policy. Our estimates that were put forward at the budget last year said that around 500 farms would pay additional tax as a result of these changes. Those numbers were contested by all on the other side of this House, and yet the Sentax report, which the honourable member has said that he and others are interested in looking at, backs up those numbers and confirms the government's estimates.
Daisy Cooper, Liberal Democrat spokesperson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On Friday, I sat with farmers and their families in Brecon and Radnor, and they are desperate. Because if they are 65 and over, they have no time to plan for the family farm tax, they cannot get insurance, and they will be put in an impossible position if the government goes ahead with the family farm tax unamended. The Sentax report sets out options that could extend extra protection for family farms whilst rightly raising funds from those people who are currently exploiting the tax loopholes in APR. Those farmers asked me to put a question to the Chancellor. They asked, can the Chancellor please say precisely which parts of the Sentax report they disagree with and why?
I thank the honourable member for her question. I would say that I have already answered that question around the Sentax proposals, Mr. Speaker, and it is clear from their analysis that the number of estates that would pay more inheritance tax would more than double compared to the proposals that the government has put on the table. I do understand that changes to inheritance tax are always difficult, but this government had to make a decision last year to raise more revenue to make sure that we could adequately fund our public services, and this change raises £500 million, Mr. Speaker, in a fair way.
Caroline Bowden.
Question number 2, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the government understands the importance of in-person banking to communities, and that's why we're working closely with industry to roll out 350 banking hubs across the UK. Over 240 hubs have been announced so far, and more than 180 are already open. I know this includes 2 banking hubs in the honourable member's constituency, and I look forward to our upcoming meeting to discuss her constituents' banking needs.
For her answer, but when in opposition, Labour's Shadow Economic Secretary welcomed measures to protect access to cash, but highlighted concerns that they did nothing to protect essential face-to-face banking services, which go beyond a banking hub. And now we are seeing we're now seeing face-to-face banking services vanish. So while the FCA is responsible for access to cash, it appears there is no government body that oversees access to face-to-face banking services. So does the Chancellor agree that new regulation is needed to support residents and businesses in rural areas, especially as banks are now going to prevent customers from cashing cheques in post offices from January?
Mr. Speaker, we recognise the important role that post offices in particular play in providing essential banking services as well as banking hubs, and decisions about which services are available at post offices are such as cheque deposits are made by banks as part of their commercial arrangements. I would emphasise to Mr. Speaker that customers continue to have other options for paying in cheques in particular, which I know is an issue for her, including in Lloyd's case via Free Post. And as I said, Mr. Speaker, I look forward to discussing these issues further with her at the meeting.
Go Thomas.
Mr. Speaker, one way of improving access to banking in rural areas, and indeed urban areas too, would be to increase the reach and role of community banks, or CDFIs. Given that CDFIs play a big role in American economic life and are backed to do so there by the biggest banks, wouldn't it be good if our biggest banks helped to fund the expansion of CDFIs here too?
Mr. Speaker, I thank the honourable member for his question. He's well versed in all of these areas, I know, and I know he's done considerable work on this. As I said, Mr. Speaker, the banks do play a role in access to cash, obviously, and via post office banking services as well.
Minister McGarvey.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, in this month of blaming everyone else for every woe that befalls this government and using it as an excuse to bust manifesto pledges left, right and centre, it seems that the government is claiming credit for more banking hubs. But, Mr. Speaker, we all know that the rolling out of banking hubs is a purely commercial decision by the banks. It is the banks that are choosing to do this to serve their customers. So, Mr. Speaker, is it now government policy to blame everyone else for their own incompetencies and claim credit for everyone else's good ideas?
Mr. Speaker, where it's appropriate to do so, and indeed it is very often appropriate to do so, we will blame the party opposite for the state or the country. And in relation, it is appropriate to do so. And specifically, Mr. Speaker, in relation to the criteria that Link use for banking hubs, I will remind him that in relation to the access to cash regime, this was designed and passed by the previous government.
Sir Russell.
Question number 3, please, Mr. Speaker.
Chancellor.
I thank my honourable friend for her question, and she's a proud supporter of everything in the Congleton constituency. This government is committed to regional growth, with growth in all parts of the United Kingdom. That's why the Treasury has reformed the Green Book, looking at the value for money of different projects, and it's why in Cheshire East, where my honourable friend's constituency is, we've put £47 million into local transport grant funding.
Sir Russell.
Many thanks for that answer. In my constituency, we have Dane Valley Community Energy, which is a marvellous group of volunteers who have raised hundreds of thousands of pounds to spend on solar panels, which have been put onto schools and other local buildings, including Daneside Theatre and Havana Primary School. Unfortunately, there has been guidance from the government more recently which has suspended applications in respect of solar for schools. Will she be able to look at this guidance and work with ministers in other departments as well to review this particular outcome?
I thank my honourable friend for drawing this issue to my attention, and I agree that community projects such as solar panels are a fantastic opportunity to get bills down for schools so that schools have more money to spend on teachers and on books. On the specific question she's raised about solar installations, there was a temporary pause in applications, but I am now happy to confirm that the DfE have resumed approvals for solar panels on school sites, and I would urge my honourable friend to encourage the schools in her constituency to apply for the new projects in the normal way.
Anna Dixon.
Question 4, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. At the heart of this government's pension reforms is the goal of bigger and better pension schemes. We are legislating for this in the Pension Schemes Bill, requiring all local government pension scheme assets to be pooled next year and for multi-employer defined contribution schemes to have at least £25 billion worth of assets. This reform agenda will deliver returns for savers and ensure schemes have the scale required to invest in productive assets right across the country.
Anna Dixon.
Many of my constituents have assets in the West Yorkshire Pension Fund, which manages more than £19 million. I am concerned, however, that some of the fund's investments are concentrated in sectors that cause harm, such as the fossil fuel industry. Does the Minister agree with me that the West Yorkshire Pension Fund could invest in socially valuable activities, such as the regeneration of the town centre in Shipley and social homes?
The LGPS actually has a strong track record of local investment of exactly the kind that my right honourable friend mentions, including in social housing, and we want to build on that record. The Pension Schemes Bill will specifically introduce requirements for local government pension scheme pools to work with strategic authorities, including mayoral strategic authorities, on local investment opportunities, which I thought the party opposite used to be in favour of before they decided that full-time chuntering was their business of the day. Along with the highest sustained levels of public investment since the 1970s, Britain will get back in the business of investing in its future once again.
Alan Mack.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Pension providers play a key role in helping Britain's tech startups turn into world-leading scale-ups, but around £3 trillion of money in pension funds sits idle. That money should be used to support our tech sector. So will the Minister commit to accelerating the Mansion House reforms successfully introduced by the last Conservative government?
Well, I thank the honourable member for his question, and I agree with where he started, but unfortunately he then went on to praise some of the work that happened under the last government, where we haven't seen the investment that he talks about actually coming through and getting to the entrepreneurs that he rightly thinks that we should be doing more to match. That is what the Mansion House Accord that we have now put in place and supported for the private sector is doing. It's what the British Business Bank is doing, bringing forward the British Growth Partnership, because we do need to see UK pension funds investing in our most innovative, fastest growing companies.
Callum Anderson.
Speaker, the establishment of the Sterling 20 sends a strong signal that this country is serious about mobilising more of its own domestic capital in productive domestic assets. And as the Oxford-Cambridge Growth Corridors anchor, the Buckingham-Bletchley constituency is primed to offer high-quality investment opportunities. Can the Minister set out more detail about how he is working with local authorities like Labour-run Milton Keynes City Council to ensure that we can provide that pipeline, and will he meet with me to discuss how to take it further?
I thank my honourable friend for his question. He's always a powerful advocate, both for the fast-growing companies in his constituency, but for the right pension policy for the UK as a whole, as we saw during the Pension Schemes Bill, which he sat on the committee of. The Sterling 20 is a new investor-led partnership between the UK's 20 largest pension funds and insurers. It was established at the Regional Investment Summit in Birmingham on the 21st of October, and we are working closely with them to deliver exactly the kind of investment that my right honourable friend is talking about.
Peter Bedford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Pension scheme trustees have obligation to make decisions they believe are in the best interests of savers, otherwise known as the fiduciary duty. The reserved powers in the Pension Schemes Bill could force investment in government vanity projects that is contrary to this. Does the Minister agree with me and much of the pension industry that mandation is a massive state overreach and is gambling with the futures of those saving for retirement?
No, not at all.
Gareth Davis, Shadow Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mobilising more investment from the UK pension fund market is critical to driving regional economic growth. The Chancellor says that she's a builder, not a blocker, but her new proposed builders tax threatens to drastically increase the cost of building anything, from homes to roads to nuclear power stations. This will make investing in UK infrastructure increasingly unviable. So to avoid even more investment-killing uncertainty, will the Minister agree to scrap Labour's proposed landfill tax reforms and let Britain get back to building?
What I can reassure the honourable member is that we are scrapping the attitude of the party opposite that blocked any building happening anywhere in this country year after year after year. Houses blocked, railways blocked, anything that involves any difficult choices blocked by a party opposite that gave up governing long before the general election.
Sean Davis.
Number 5, sir.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. HMRC is committed to improving day-to-day performance and the customer experience. I can let Mr. Speaker know that call waiting times in the first quarter of this year are half as long as in the same period last year, which is good news for customers. And at the 2025 spending review, the government allocated £500 million to make HMRC a digital-first organisation, and that transformation is well underway.
£20 million investment in relocating and upgrading Telford's HMRC office, with 1,000 members of staff working hard to deliver the best service possible. Will the Minister meet with me and Telford and Wrekin Council to discuss how the new HMRC campus can be at the forefront of improving the customer experience, including by harnessing the potential of AI and tech, as well as partnering with the start-up sector?
I thank my honourable friend for his question. He is a very strong advocate for Telford, both for jobs in the private sector, but also those in the public sector that we are able to bring and support in his community. I'm glad to hear that he, like me, is proud of HMRC's Telford campus and wants to see it play a key role in improving customer experience through innovation, AI and digital technology. And Mr. Speaker, I will be very happy to meet with the honourable member to discuss just those issues.
Mr. Macbeth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Chancellor has justified her lack of licence for renting out a house as an inadvertent error. HMRC are never prepared to accept people make inadvertent errors. So will this now change? Or does the Chancellor expect to be treated differently to how everyone else is treated by HMRC when they make an inadvertent error?
She can answer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am not sure that the matter that the honourable member just raised has much to do with HMRC.
Dave McHillier, Chair of the Select Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we look at obviously a lot at the Treasury Select Committee about HMRC's customer service, but of course we've seen this recent episode where people have had their child benefit stopped, ostensibly on the basis of travel data. Could the Minister explain what he's doing to resolve this and what data HMRC was basing its information on?
Thank you for the question, and I want to thank the honourable member for her service on the Treasury Select Committee. She's doing a sterling job as the chair there. On this issue, this is a really important issue, Mr. Speaker. I just want to explain to the House that HMRC undertook a pilot last year to try and find a way to reduce fraud in the child benefit system. This measure is expected to save £350 million over the next 5 years, and we have already managed to prevent £17 million in wrongful payments. But my honourable friend is right to raise that a very small number of claimants did have their child benefit incorrectly removed. I'm really sorry that that happened. HMRC is taking steps, writing to those who will be affected and making sure that people who should get their child benefit payments do receive it.
Vicky Slade.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My constituent Holly from Wimborne applied for a self-assessment refund in April, just £300. When she chased it in June, she was told it had gone to a specialist tax team with no reason, no time frame. She complained in August. It's now November. She's heard nothing. So while she may only be owed £300, this is happening around the country. So can the Minister tell me whether he thinks 7 months is a reasonable time to receive a basic refund and what the department is doing to speed things up?
I thank the honourable member for raising the issue of her constituent. I would be happy for her to write to the department about this. Even though it's not appropriate for me to get involved in individuals' taxpayers' affairs, I hope that the department can improve on that service. We have improved the response rates when it comes to both people making phone calls and people getting in touch via the post. But of course, there's always more that we can do.
Wendy Moore.
Number 6, please, Mr. Speaker.
Chancellor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The previous government left a £22 billion black hole in the public finances. And in the budget last year, I had to take urgent action to ensure our public finances were on a firm footing and to properly fund our public services, including a £29 billion investment every year in our National Health Service. You can't support more investment in our public services unless you support the tax changes to pay for them.
Chancellor, I think they're grouped.
Oh, sorry.
Questions
right, Mr. Speaker. With permission, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to group it with 16 and 19.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Wendy Moore.
Mr. Speaker, I'm not convinced that that answer went anywhere near my question. So in terms of my supplementary, family businesses are the lifeblood of communities and constituencies such as mine. Last week I met with Family Business UK to discuss how the government's national insurance hike, alongside restrictions to business property relief, are forcing businesses to pause investment, think twice about taking on more staff, and in some cases even forcing them to close their doors. So ahead of the budget, Mr. Speaker, will the Chancellor meet with me and representatives from family businesses to see ways in which the government will work with, not against, these really key businesses?
I thank the Right Honourable Lady for that question. 43% of employers, almost 1 million, will pay no employer national insurance this year. That is an increase because of the changes we made to the employment allowance. Over half of employers with mixed liabilities will see no change or gain overall, and businesses can employ younger people, those aged under 21 and apprentices under 25 without mix. But the party opposite have to decide whether they will stick with this change to national insurance or not, because if you are not going to stick with this, then you'll have to admit that you won't be able to put the money into the National Health Service.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. According to the British Retail Consortium, the Chancellor's last budget caused a £7 billion cost to retail, leading to shop closures, declining high streets and job losses. If the Chancellor won't acknowledge the damage she has caused, how will she go about rectifying it? And can I start by recommending a 100% business rate relief put forward by the Shadow Chancellor?
Thank the honourable gentleman for that question. In his own constituency, in the Isle of Wight, the 6-month change in waiting lists showed that 5% fewer people are waiting for 18 weeks or longer, and that's only possible because the money we put into the NHS, because of the tax changes we made. And regard to retail sales and the impact on shops, retail sales have increased for the last 4 months in a row, with the most recent numbers for September and August outpacing expectations.
Mr. Speaker, it was always blindingly obvious that increasing employers' national insurance would lead to an increase in business costs, which would lead to higher prices, hitting working people directly and rises in inflation. And sure enough, inflation has risen steadily under this government and is now almost twice its recommended level. But at the time of the last budget, we were told it was necessary to raise taxes on businesses by £25 billion to pay for the NHS. And large amounts of money has indeed been paid to unionised workers. But just yesterday, the ONS announced that NHS productivity had fallen by 1.5% since Labour took office. So can the Chancellor explain what exactly my Orpington businesses are paying more tax for?
Well, in the honourable gentleman's constituency, people waiting more than 18 weeks for an appointment has also fallen, and that is exactly what that money is being used for. But the honourable gentleman needs to be clear, and so does the front bench opposite. If they are going to reverse the increase in national insurance, they have to also accept that there's less money for our National Health Service. That's a choice, but it would be interesting to hear whether that is the choice of that party opposite.
West.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. On the 6th of December, Small Business Saturday will have us all out in our constituencies supporting small business. What measures, following the announcement this morning about the need to enhance productivity, will the Treasury be introducing to assist small businesses in the current tough climate?
I thank my honourable friend for that question, and I know that she's a strong champion of people in Hornsey and Wood Green, including small businesses. Last year at the budget, we set out the principles and the consultation on business rates reform, and our principle there is to make it easier for small businesses and high street businesses, whilst making sure that the online retail giants pay their fair share of tax. We'll be setting out more information on our reformed business rate system to help our high streets and help our small businesses on the 26th of November.
Speaker, the party opposite gave us austerity, they gave us Brexit, and they gave us Liz Truss, including high interest rates and high inflation. This government so far has delivered the highest growth in the G7, 5 interest rate cuts, and record high levels of investment. So isn't the truth that it is the party opposite over 14 years that was the reason businesses were struggling?
Odd. This is just a rant and nothing relevant to the question. Colin Naismith.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The members opposite spend a lot of time complaining about the difficult decisions taken by this Labour government. So I wonder if the Minister can remind them what we have been able to do for public services and infrastructure as a result of the revenue-raising policies of this Labour government.
I thank my honourable friend for that question, and it's exactly the case. The tax changes we made at the budget last year enabled us to put £29 billion extra a year to the National Health Service, but also rolling out free school meals and free breakfast clubs for young people. So that's the difference that this government are making. And of course, on capital spending, because of the changes that I made to our fiscal rules, we're able to invest £120 billion more on our energy security, our digital infrastructure, new homes, and through our industrial strategy. That's the difference that this Labour government is making.
Daisy Cooper, Liberal Democrat spokesperson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Analysis by UK Hospitality suggests that more than half of the job losses seen in the UK since last year's budget have come from their sector. This is further evidence that the jobs tax has been bad for growth and bad for job opportunities. Now, we Liberal Democrats have set out fairer ways of raising revenue and going for growth. So rather than the government suggesting that we haven't, could I instead ask the government, will they use the budget to consult on a new lower national insurance contribution band to create opportunities for part-time workers, especially in hospitality?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We did increase the employment allowance at the budget last year. That's agnostic between part-time and full-time workers, and that's rightly the case. And that's why 865,000 businesses will not be paying national insurance at all this year, an increase to help our smallest of businesses. But also unemployment. Employment is up 358,000 so far this year. A very different picture to what the Honourable Lady just tried to set out.
Maureen Burt.
Question number 7, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The government values our world-leading distilling industry and recognises that the spirits sector has found recent economic conditions challenging due to both tariff uncertainty and high energy costs. The Scotch industry is set to be among the biggest beneficiaries from the landmark trade deal that this government secured with India, which is set to reduce tariffs from 150% to 75% initially and then to 40% over time.
Maureen Burt.
I thank the Minister for that answer. Scotch whisky is one of Scotland's greatest products with high demand here at home and across the globe. But many are worried about challenges facing the industry. The Scotch Whisky Association are calling for a multi-year freeze on excise duty for spirits to relieve some of these pressures and to back the wider hospitality sector. Would the Minister join me, GMB Scotland and others by committing to freeze spirits duty in the budget later this month?
I thank my honourable friend for her question. She is a strong advocate for the businesses and the industry in her constituency and in the area nearby. But as my right honourable friend is aware, the vast majority of Scotch is exported and so not subject to the UK excise taxes. Nevertheless, the government appreciates the importance to Scotch producers of the domestic market, and I do acknowledge the wider pressures facing the industry. On her specific question, the government's baseline assumption remains that alcohol duties will be increased with inflation each year, Mr. Speaker, to maintain their real terms values. And this means that any cut or freeze does come at a cost to the Exchequer. Of course, with all taxes, the Chancellor, not the junior Treasury Minister, will confirm her decisions on alcohol duty as part of the budget process in the normal way.
Mr. Speaker, the Scottish Secretary, a grown man who seems very easy to upset, was very upset recently when the First Minister of Scotland had direct meetings with the President of the United States over whisky tariffs. The SNP and the First Minister will always stand up for Scotch whisky. So will the Chancellor follow suit, or will she continue in the Treasury's long-standing tradition of suckling off the enterprise of Scottish businesses rather than supporting them? And her tax hike on Scotch whisky last year cost jobs and investment in Scotland. So will she now stand up for that industry?
Minister.
It doesn't even dignify a reply.
I thank the honourable member for his question. And I would like to remind the honourable member of the landmark trade deal that this government did secure with India. He criticises the government for not doing enough, whereas we have secured a trade deal with India. We have secured trade deals with the EU and with the US, and we're reducing tariffs to support industry. And we're investing in Scotland too, with a record-breaking budget to support jobs, investment and growth and the public sector across the whole of Scotland.
Sean Barron.
Number 8, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, over 700,000 small businesses across the UK pay no business rates at all as they receive 100% small business rates relief. We are transforming business rates over this Parliament, and we are cutting bureaucracy too, removing the need for small business owners like family-run cafes to submit pages and pages of directors' reports to Companies House.
Sean Barry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Grassroots music venues are a vital part of the heart, soul and economy of Brighton Pavilion. Treasury ministers have admitted that fairer business rates valuation methods are not currently used for many of these businesses. My local venues are calling the burdens punitive and a threat to viability. So will the Chancellor assure me she will not forget grassroots music venues in her budget?
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Speaker, we very much recognise the role that grassroots music venues play in constituencies right across our country, and in our reforms that we'll be setting out more detail on at the budget on November the 26th, we will have permanently lower rates of business rates of retail, hospitality and leisure premises with rateable values below £500,000.
Noel Law.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Despite representing only around 9% of UK economic output, the retail and hospitality sectors contribute around a third of all business rates paid. So does the Minister agree with me that high streets like that of St Austell are public goods, and will he ensure that independent small businesses such as those he's described, which are central in our communities and economies, are no longer penalised by an arcane business rate system that undervalues their public contribution?
Well, I thank my honourable friend very much for his question. And high streets in St Austell, as in constituencies right across the country, need more support from the business rate system, Mr. Speaker. And that's why we're transforming the business rate system to ask those larger premises, including the warehouses used by online giants, to pay slightly more in order to permanently cut the business rates which are payable by smaller premises on high streets right across the country.
Minister James White.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When the Chancellor imposed £40 billion worth of tax rises, she chose to double business rates for leisure, retail and hospitality business, and she's going to come back for more. So perhaps it'll be in vain, but perhaps I can offer her a policy suggestion: scrapping business rates for 250,000 shops, pubs and restaurants. So rather than hike taxes, will she adopt Conservative policy, control welfare spending, so we can back our small businesses?
Mr. Speaker, that barely deserves a response, the question the honourable gentleman just answered. Mr. Speaker, when we came into office, the business rates relief that we inherited from the previous government was due to end entirely in April of this year. It is only because of us that we have extended it for a year, whilst we put in place the permanently lower multipliers for retail, hospitality and leisure businesses. That is businesses on high streets right across our country, which will be announced on the budget on November the 26th.
Sally James.
Question number 9, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We consulted on measures to simplify gambling duty and improve compliance, and these responses from the consultation have now been analysed, and a response will be set out at autumn budget. I recognise the social and cultural value of horse racing, which is why we are listening to the horse racing sector as we consider our response to the consultation.
Sally James.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In Doncaster, we have historic links to the horse racing industry and know firsthand the economic value it brings to our community and the country. So will the Minister agree to meet with the BHA to discuss the potential impact on harmonisation and an increase in betting duties on the viability of racecourses, jobs and levy payments that support horse racing and the wider sporting industry?
My honourable friend is a strong advocate for the horse racing industry and for the jobs and economic activity in her constituency. I was glad to meet with her just last week to discuss the topic that she raises today. As part of the consultation, Mr. Speaker, there has been engagement with the horse racing industry to identify any potential unintended consequences for their sector and how they might be mitigated. As I said, Mr. Speaker, the government will respond to the consultation at the budget. And yes, in response to my friend's question, I will happily meet with the BHA.
Jack Rankin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Both Ascot and Royal Windsor racecourses are incredibly important to my constituency and refer the House to my entry on the Members' Register. On this issue, I heard him to heed warnings from across this House and, more importantly, the industry. I cautiously welcome the briefing to the Telegraph at the weekend. Racing, rightly, should be treated very, very differently to online casinos and gaming. Can he assure the House that taxes on horse race and greyhound race flutters will not increase?
Decisions on tax policy will be made at the budget.
Lemchi Elmore.
Number 11, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I thank my honourable friend for her question, and I know she's a tireless champion for working families in Newcastle. We know that for too long people have been feeling they are putting too much in and not getting enough back, and that is why this government has increased the national living wage by £1,400 this year for a full-time worker, putting more money directly into the pockets of around 3 million working people. The North East Combined Authority Investment Zone will benefit from £160 million investment to deliver £2 billion in private sector investment and 4,000 jobs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Under 14 years of Tory misrule, North East workers saw their average annual earnings fall, causing a cost of living crisis for families across the region. But we have fantastic, passionate and productive workers. So will the Minister promise to continue to turn the back on Tory failure by investing in the industry of the North East to deliver high-wage, high-quality jobs and to ensure, as part of a budget for working people?
Well, Mr. Speaker, my honourable friend is absolutely right to draw attention to the record of the Conservatives being in office, and she's also right to draw attention to the fact that in her constituency she has fantastic, passionate and productive workers who need a government, which they now have, that will invest in good jobs, skills and make sure we have workers' rights on a better footing than we inherited from the previous government. At the budget, Mr. Speaker, the Chancellor will be led by the government's commitment to fairness, and she'll be focused on protecting our NHS, reducing the national debt and improving the cost of living.
That's a linked question to Newcastle, so we'll go to Jill first.
Question 12, Mr. Speaker. I'm grateful to my honourable friend for her question, and I want to pay tribute to her years of work to further financial inclusion, both inside and prior to Parliament. Mr. Speaker, this is a timely question because we are tomorrow publishing the government's financial inclusion strategy, which sets out an ambitious programme of measures to improve financial inclusion and resilience for communities right across the UK. Earlier this year, I chaired a roundtable with the APPG for debt and financial inclusion, which highlighted our 5 key asks. In my constituency of Sheffield, Brightside and Hillsborough, nearly 70% of adults are considered to be in financially vulnerable circumstances. This is amongst the highest proportion in the city. What steps does she plan to take measure the impact of the financial inclusion strategy, and would she meet with me to discuss this in the future? Mr. Speaker, my honourable friend raises a really important question, and as part of developing the strategy, the government has engaged with committee members and other organisations on how to measure the impact of the strategy and indeed to drive its delivery as well. The strategy's implementation will be reviewed in 2 years, 2 years from publication, against outcomes-based metrics to provide an update on progress. And Mr. Speaker, I'll be more than happy to meet with her to discuss.
John Glenn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When I was Economic Secretary, I advanced something against the advice of officials called the No Interest Loan Scheme. Now, I'm given to believe that one of her 2 predecessors since the general election may have suspended this valuable attempt to support the most vulnerable in society. Would the Minister look again at this in advance of the budget in 3 weeks' time? Because it really is something that there was wide cross-party support for.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the honourable member for his question. I'm aware of the scheme that he talks about. He'll appreciate I can't preempt neither the strategy tomorrow, the launch of the strategy tomorrow, nor indeed the budget, but I'd be more than happy to meet with him to talk about it in more detail.
We now go to